17-year-old Adelaide student Sania Ali may still be at school, but she's keen to enjoy a privilege that's currently the preserve of adults.
16 and 17-year-olds, like any other age group, are a part of our nation and they're also a part of our democracy. And as being a part of democracy, we deserve the democratic act of voting.
Sania says she and her friends feel frustrated they can't have their say about the issues that will affect them in the decades ahead.
Climate change is rapidly getting worse and worse every day, and young people who, when we're 16 and 17, we're not old enough to be the Prime Minister or anything just yet, or the Premier, and we don't really have a lot of things we can do, and sometimes we feel helpless about that.
19-year-old Will Shackle is at university in Canberra. He also has a deep interest in the issues facing Australia, so much so that he's come along to watch the official opening of the new Parliament.
Well, it's really interesting to see how politics works in Australia and how our democracy functions this morning, and getting to walk in and see all the ceremonies I think was a really interesting opportunity for me.
Will is already engaged in political debate. He's been a prominent voice in favour of nuclear energy. And once he turned 18 last year, Will was thrilled about finally being able to vote.
The chance to feel like I was included in the democratic process was really exciting for me.
Will is not too sure, though, about expanding that democratic process to include those under 18.
There are a lot of 16, 17-year-olds who in principle deserve the right to vote. Either, they pay taxes, they're very engaged, they care about issues like I did when I was 16, but when you look at the vast majority of 16, 17-year-olds, most are not engaged in politics. I think a lot would struggle to identify the Prime Minister from the opposition leader.
So the Prime Minister is Anthony Albanese and the opposition leader is Susan Lee.
The lobby group Make It 16 has been campaigning vigorously for a lower voting age, and Sania Ali says it's a big mistake to underestimate her age cohort.
Sometimes I've experienced that some people might have a, bias or preconception that, young people, 16 and 17-year-olds don't think about this kind of stuff, but we definitely do, and we most definitely care about it, and our passion for change is very visible. If you just talk to us, you can definitely see that.
Teenagers like Sania are thrilled about the UK government's decision to give 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote. Britain is following the lead of other countries like Austria, Germany, Brazil and Argentina, and believes the move will empower young people.
Okay, so Starmer has just announced that in the next election, 16-year-olds are going to be able to vote. I mean, this is it for him. But not just him, the whole system.
I'm incredibly excited to hear that the UK has taken this step. I think we should now get it done here in Australia.
Green Senator Jordan Steele-John introduced a private member's bill to lower the voting age shortly after he was first elected to the Senate in 2017. He'll revive the bill in this new Parliament.
We trust 16-year-olds to pay taxes, to join the armed forces and to drive a car. I think we should trust 16 and 17-year-olds to vote as well.
Australia's electoral base has been expanded a number of times since the first sitting of the Federal Parliament here in Melbourne's Royal Exhibition Building in 1901. Women and Indigenous Australians were given the right to vote, and in 1973 the Whitlam government lowered the voting age from 21 to 18 at a time when young Australians were fighting and dying in the Vietnam War. But attempts to lower the voting age even further may run into trouble.
Voters in Australia haven't supported the idea of lowering the voting age. Public opinion can shift over time, although it would need to shift a lot for this proposal to attract majority support.
Griffith University's Sarah Cameron has been tracking public opinion on lowering the voting age to 16 as part of the rolling Australian election study, where voter attitudes are surveyed after each federal election.
What this data shows is that it's a minority of about 15% who indicate that they would support lowering the voting age to 16, whereas a majority of around 85% would prefer that things stay as they are now, with a voting age of 18.
Even the young people surveyed as part of the election study express limited enthusiasm for lowering the voting age.
One idea put forward to boost support for the change is to make voting voluntary for 16 and 17-year-olds. But could this entrench bad habits?
Some of the prior research on voting in elections suggests that voting is a habitual behaviour that people learn. So introducing the option for younger voters not to vote in their first election introduces a risk that this could form a habit of non-voting for those voters.
So Make It 16's views that 16 and 17-year-olds should be held to the same responsibility as other voters, and that would include compulsory voting.
Senator Steele John has come up with a compromise: compulsory voting without the penalties.
The Parliament should not be in the business of fining 16 and 17-year-olds. So we've struck a balance. Compulsory voting continues, but if you are 16 and 17, you will not be fined if you don't vote.
Those opposed to the change argue civics education in Australian schools is nowhere near the level it needs to be to fully equip 16 and 17-year-olds with the depth of knowledge they need to understand Australia's system of government. The latest survey by the Australian Curriculum Assessment and Reporting Authority found just 28% of Year 10 students were proficient in civics. That's the lowest level in 20 years.
Well, look, when I was in Year 6, I think I had 2 weeks of civics education, and then we had our Canberra trip as most primary school students do. And I think that's we should be getting much more civics education in the classroom.
I'm hearing students who are learning things for the first time at university, things that they feel they should have learnt in high school. So there is a case to be made in terms of strengthening civic education in Australia.
The newly sworn-in House of Representatives Speaker Milton Dick has made improving civics education a personal mission.
And I want to ensure that young Australians, no matter where they live, can learn about our democracy, see how it works and understand how they can take part in shaping its future.
Advocates insist giving the vote to more young people will turbocharge their knowledge of how the system works.
What we have seen from the research and the studies in those countries is that lowering the voting age creates an incredible opportunity to strengthen civics education and to ensure that people have the supports that they need when they go to vote.
The Albanese government says it has no plans to lower the voting age, but 17-year-olds like Sania Ali are determined to keep up the campaign on behalf of the young Australians who feel their voices are being ignored.
And if young people had the right to vote, then we could effectively have our say and maybe feel a bit less helpless and a bit more powerful into what we can do to protect our country.